Hello and welcome to the Do's and Don'ts of D&D episode 5. Now today, or tonight depending on what time you're watching this I guess, we'll be talking about, well, the really awkward subject of, first off, creating a decent character. And I'm not going to go through like an hour-long step-by-step. That'll be left for another video if you guys want that. If the two of you who are watching this, whoever sees this, want to see that, I'll probably do it anyways because it's the channel's name. Now, and then I'll be talking about how to introduce a character. So, that's for the DMs. First off, player characters. Now, one issue with D&D is people trying to min-max off the start, especially newer players who don't really see how the game works. They'll try and min-max, and they'll make a character who is just no fun. Like, because min-max, unless you, like, if you don't understand the quirks of the game, and the little weird fundamental steps that you kind of understand, later on, in D&D, you just make a character that doesn't work. A character with no backstory that's bland and faceless. This is why, especially for you DMs out there, I believe you should always start with explaining the basics of the world. Explaining the basics of the world to the character, of course. And then, my method usually takes about, depending on the person you're with, maybe, sometimes it can be like 10 minutes, because people will just snap like that, have their character. Others, it may take longer. Others, it'll take like sometimes it'll take like a couple of hours to make. So this strategy is a little bit long, can be a lot longer if you're not careful. Now, first off, after you started with the world, you usually explain the basics. So it'll be like, okay, this is the world. You'll kind of set down ground rules. So when they're kind of looking at their base character, I'd always recommend this after you kind of get their story in place, just for when they're in between, depending on what they're asking for. And then you go and ask them where they came from. You always start with where they came from. You may have to add a town or two, or a couple towns. And then if you have like two people who are really good friends and have been hanging out for a long time, you can maybe have those two people start in the same town as each other if they're playing D&D together. And then have their backstories intertwined. That's a little bit more complex to do. I wouldn't recommend that for your first time through D&D. Maybe your second for the DMs out there, unless you played a couple of games. Like, I have two characters. They're Reyes and Jessica. Reyes the long-bearded, who is a wizard who, because his parents were barbers, has the special ability to infinitely, within reason, grow his beard into different shapes and sizes and colors and stuff. And then Jessica, who's a character who's basically just a run-of-the-mill. She just wants to get out there and adventure and was looking for anything. So we made it so they went to the same school. Then they kind of separated off till they both got letters, and then they kind of accidentally met each other back up on the road. And that's how their first encounter was. Then they were brought into the D&D. And then you can do this, because sometimes it's nice to bring people in pairs or trios if you have a large group who breaks off and then joins into the D&D off and on again. Especially if like 2 or 3 people will come together. Like I had this guy and girl who are dating. Now they come every session they come in a duo. Now since the guy, I'm not gonna say his name, he was just played a wolf. He literally just played a wolf because he didn't really care too much about making a backstory, a really specific character. And then the other one was the Soul Eater, who I've mentioned in a previous video. And they since they were dating, they still are dating, and hopefully they'll have a good relationship or whatever, but they came together, so I made it so their stories were really intertwined. Part of the Soul Eater's backstory is that she has this wolf that she's had since it was a pup. Now it's partially fully grown. Now they go and fight together, and they can perform specific actions, because you can always do that to make it a little more fun, where two characters can act together, and then of course they'll suffer detriments if they're not, but it's a little bit harsher. You need to be very careful if you do use that. You can also just, well, yeah, you can wing it with their stories, and then, yeah, usually, well, let's think. Yeah, that's their stories. Now, one problem I've had with a couple of DMs I've had is you're all together instantly at the start. Or you all meet up in, within a couple of minutes of each other. I personally don't like that. So usually, with the Jessica and Reyes I talked about before, I had a separate first session with them than most of the rest of the group. Now, the rest of the group, most of them got captured on their way there. One of them had their own session, and I told them that they just woken up there in a dungeon. Another had already made it, who was, Johnny, whose character I'll talk about more in a little bit, who basically who has already met the, basically town leader, Capelli, and stuff, and was sent out on a scouting mission, where he in turn met up with Jessica and Reyes and Capelli, and it was basically this duel battle where the characters on the inside were breaking out while they were breaking in. So, and then that's how they meet. I like that story. That's probably one of my favorite ones that I've made. Though I probably could have tweaked it a lot better than I did. It was a little rushed. And that's it. Now, for when you bring characters into the world, you can't just have them be like, oh, this is their backstory, here's a village you're never gonna meet. Sometimes you gotta have a little bit of space. So I had Johnny's character, which I mentioned just a couple minutes back. Well, let's see, he basically was an orphan, didn't know his parents, and has been searching. This is why he was a monk dragonborn, even though it was awkward. And then would eventually find out by accident, by a 100 on a D100 roll that I made, that Capelli, the guildmaster he had been called to, was secretly his father, and the father didn't actually know it at that point until he saw the locket that his son had, and then there was a nice reunion, kind of. It was only 5 or 6 sessions in, so only and these were when we were only doing 2 or 3 hour sessions, so maybe 12 hours of gameplay in, so not as heartwarming as I was kind of hoping for it to be. I was hoping for it to be a little bit more spectacular, but oh well, sometimes your players break your game, and you just have to roll with it. Because if you don't, and you're a DM, you will cry. Now, basically my main point is, you build the story of the character, and even the stuff they don't know yet. And you just, give them little tidbits of information that, you don't know, it might give like, that they may just think about, and, like, you write it down as their character sheet as background information, that they'll be like, oh, and they'll snap their fingers, their light bulbs will go off above their heads, and they'll realize, look at this, I have the power to do this now, and they'll realize this, and that my backstory connects here and here and here. Now, because the journey's called Wannabes and Accidents, where it's basically these people, they're not supposed to be heroes, become heroes. So, one of them has, well, let's see, one of them has amnesia. Hopefully they don't watch this. But basically, well, actually, they already know at this point, so it doesn't matter. That their character was supposed to be a spy. At least they think they might have been. I'm not going to go too in-depth, just because I don't want to have metagamers in case one of those dinguses watches this. They woke up with amnesia just because we had to build their character a little bit faster, as things didn't work out quite well when we were planning stuff, and she basically was like, oh, I'll just join in at this point. But sometimes as a DM you just gotta accept it, and then when you wing it, sometimes you come out with a good story, and then sometimes you like the tiefling who has amnesia, who actually I'm gonna go and record a storytime video about that tiefling right now, just in a minute, because of one of my favorite things they've done, because they're probably one of my favorite characters, because they're just ridiculous. But yeah, I know this is probably not as long or in depth as most people go, but I just recommend, think of something cool. Think of something that you think is cool looking. Think of, like, because stats can come later. You can, as a player, you can push into any stats. You can if you're smart and move the numbers around as you're playing, try and accumulate the right items, you can be awesome with any combination of stuff. Hell, you could technically be a floating doormat with a katana if you really wanted to be. Because that's how lenient D&D can be at times, if you do it right. Yeah, I think that's all for today. Bye. Please like and subscribe if you liked. Dislike if you didn't like. Because I'm not going to tell you what to do, but yeah, see ya. Have a good one. Peace.